that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hunter x Hunter Yorknew City Arc tier list. Okay, alright, so first up on the list here is Bolonov, Bonolov, something like that. Alright, so not gonna lie, this is one of the dudes who doesn't really stand out to me in amongst the Phantom Troupe in this arc. So I want to put him at C. Actually, we'll go down to D. I mean, that's just me being nice, but like, I literally couldn't tell you anything about this dude. Makes kind of no impression whatsoever. So, you know, nothing of note. All right, so already number 2 here, we're hitting Chrollo. I think for me, Chrollo, he's definitely S material, but I don't want to like jump the gun and just start throwing all the super heavyweight standouts in S until it's done, because I might do some moving around, because I'm also going to do like how I rate them, which is like, you know, if 2 people are in S, like the one that's in front is going to be like more my favorite, you know what I mean? So that being said, Chrollo's a fantastic character. I think he's a great villain. He's got that kind of, you know, cool, suave energy about him, this mysterious vibe. You learn like a little bit, like literally a little tiny tidbit, I feel, of his backstory. And he seems to be a man who kind of like has everything figured out, and the stuff that he doesn't have figured out, he knows how to figure it out. You know what I mean? His powers are cool, again, of what we've seen. I kind of feel like there's more to it, and then the way this arc ends up is he gets his powers, you know, taken away, at least, you know, temporarily. So I feel like we haven't like really seen him cut loose. But yeah, all right, we're gonna throw him an A. We're gonna throw him an A for now. Like I said, we'll see what happens when this is all over. Phaeton, I think that's the same. This guy was cool. I don't know how many of you have seen Demon Slayer, but this guy low-key reminds me of the snake Hashira from Demon Slayer. Just because he's got this vibe of like, if you look at me, I'll kill you. Except like I'm kind of cool with some of the Phantom Troupe members, because, you know, we just kick it like that. But this guy, like, he's just got this no nonsense. I'm not here to play or party around or whatever. We're doing what we got to get done, and like, I'll snap your neck if you look at me funny. Which, you know, was like kind of cool. Was like, all right, it was what it was. His powers, again, like, I feel like the Yorknew City arc is interesting because you kind of get the idea of what most of the Phantom Troupe can do, but like, you don't really get to see a lot of them cut loose, or the display of power that most of them show. It's very basic, and it's just enough to be like, oh, okay, they can do that, but like, you know, what can they really do? We don't know. I'm gonna put him at C. Because again, I think a lot of these Phantom Troupe members who like really stuck out are gonna be much more. I'm gonna like, I have more to say on it, obviously, than ones who didn't, such as the mummy dude in D. All right. Next we have Franklin. This guy was pretty cool. He seemed very much like the level-headed guy of the group. One of them, I actually think there's 2, of the guy who's always, every time, because, you know, this troop is no stranger to like disagreeing or arguing amongst themselves, you know, so I feel like he's the guy who, you know, is always grabbing the kids. You know that meme of like the mom holding like the 2 leashes with like her kid or her 2 kids, like, you know, trying to keep them together. This feels like one of his jobs. He feels like the guy who, every time people are pointing guns at each other's faces and being like, what'd you say? He's the guy who's like, guys, hold on, let's all take a minute here, let's collect our thoughts. Like, what do we got to do? What's priority number 1? Which is really cool. And you definitely need someone like that in a group like this, because this is a group, at least again to my understanding, of like, you know, either known criminals or people who have become criminals since joining this group, you know, people who are willing to lie, cheat, murder, you know. So you're not among the kind-hearted necessarily, at least if they're not talking about each other. So that's just the play. You need that. You absolutely need that 100%. I'm gonna put him in C though. I'm gonna put him in C higher than this guy. Gone. I mean, like, I feel like, so it's funny. I was actually having a conversation with Ian about Hunter x Hunter a couple days ago when we were recording stuff, and one of the things I love about Hunter x Hunter, and I think mainly it's specific, like the main cast, right? The core four, we'll call them. Does anybody call them that? I just did. Is that Gon is a character, he obviously like has flaws, right? Like he's very naive. He's very like easy to trust, and like almost looks at people, looks at the positives of somebody almost to a fault, right? And he's also like kind of borderline dumb, you know, at least in like the street smart sense. But none of those traits like overshadow all the positives and all the likable things about him, right? His good and honest nature, his incredible like strength and determination, and his moral compass of like always knowing, you know, always doing right by people, regardless, to be, at least in this arc shows it too, regardless of who they are. It's got I don't even know why I'm continuing. It's S. It's got to be S. Gon is just such a great. Gon is one of the few main protagonists, anime or like shonen protagonists specifically, that like I didn't think I'd mess with, but like, you know, again, I haven't finished the show, but just getting as far as I have, I like Gon's one of my favorites of all shonen main protagonists, period. I just love him. I love this kid so much. Okay, and now I realize how that last phrase sounds, just segueing it to the next character, because this next character probably feels the exact same way. We have Hisoka. Hisoka, I'm not gonna lie, went up for me again in this arc. I have a weird sneaking suspicion that that's gonna happen more and more as the show goes on, and because I don't remember, but in the first tier list, I personally wanted to rank him like middle of the road, I think like C or something, because I was just like, I don't know what this man's intentions are, I don't know what kind of game he's playing here, and I don't really know what he's about, so I kind of don't mess with him. Mess with him a little bit more now, mainly because of like just the way he you know, I'll say plays the Phantom Troupe. You know, he's always kind of got like the Hisoka agenda, right? There's like, what does the Phantom Troupe want to do? What does Gon and company want to do? And then what does Hisoka want to do? It's like, you know, he's always got his own cards, for pun intended, that he's playing, and you know, his own thing he's trying to get figured out, which I really liked. I did genuinely like. I think for this one, I feel like we gotta go B. I think, like I said, I think I put him in C last time I was doing this with Gavin, so I don't remember if we like compromised on something, but regardless, in my opinion, it's going in B this time around. Okay, and next is Killua's brother, Killua's brother and like his other sibling here, who are right next to each other. I'm actually just gonna group them together because literally in this arc, they're in all the same scenes. They serve the same purpose, and they're doing the same thing, which is basically Chrollo hires them to perform a hit on the 10 Dons to kill them, because the 10 Dons hire Killua's dad and his grandpa, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So that like, so if the 10 Dons die, then their contract is null and void, and the dad and the grandpa have no reason to go after Chrollo. So it's like kind of a big brain play on Chrollo's part, which again was awesome, and so was that fight, by the way. But these two, again, I'm gonna chuck them in C, because they're just kind of there. They're doing their thing. I got a feeling that they play, you know, or will play a bigger role later in the story. But like that's their whole presence in it. And yes, I'm putting the other sibling in front of Killua's oldest brother, because fuck that dude. The way he messed with Killua was not okay in the Hunter exam arc, even a little bit, and I will hate him for it forever. Alright, and speaking of the family, I think the rest of them are actually at the bottom of this, but speaking of Killua, I should say, Gon's better half, as he's also known, is absolutely awesome. I mean, like, you get to see a lot of this. So one of the cool things I love about the Gon and Killua pairing specifically is how well they are literally like two sides of the same, like how well they match together, how well they pair. While you have Gon's kind of like naive, very honest, noble intentions, sort of like him using that to sort of get to the heart of the Phantom Troupe and being like, who are you guys? Why are you doing this? Like, Killua was cool because he sort of like is the opposite. He plays the practical, the pragmatic role here, where it's like, okay, we have to be able to do this if we can't. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, like, you're in his head for a large portion of this arc, especially once we start interacting with the Phantom Troupe, and just the way that he sort of deduces things, and like it breaks it down. It's absolutely dope. And some of the sort of like tactics that he comes up with Gon are really dope. I kind of feel like, oh man, wow, I was about to say I kind of feel like Gon and Killua are a package deal, which is, I'm sure, what they would say. But I'm not gonna lie, and people might hate on me for this because they're, because they just love Killua, which is understandable. But I feel like if I had to put Gon and Killua in separate tiers for this specifically, I think I would put Killua in. Yeah, you know what? I might get some backlash on this, but I'm actually gonna put Killua in A for this one. Just because, again, I feel like personally, the way these characters stand out to me in this arc, Killua is kind of like the expected role that gets played in this, and Gon is kind of the one that like ruffles the feathers of the like, you know what I mean? Just because, like, you know what though? But they do have that really dope scene when they end up getting kidnapped by the Phantom Troupe, where Killua like also plays a pivotal role when it comes in clutch. What was I thinking? I can't separate them. I just can't. They're both. I feel like if Gon jumps, it's because Killua jumped. You know what I mean? Like that high. It's just they're in sync. That's it. I don't know. Maybe we'll change it, but maybe not. Probably not. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. We have these names are killing me, dude. Kurapika, who again is like, I'm probably just gonna throw them in C again, a little bit higher than the Zoldyck brothers, but not as, higher than some of these other Phantom Troupe members, just because kind of sticks out to me. Like, I remember them having some dialogue. There's that cool, you get to see their power. It's a cool display of their power where they, can make perfect copies of stuff, which obviously helps them in the auction. But doesn't have like a whole lot of presence amongst the Phantom Troupe, at least compared to some of the Phantom Troupe members who really get to stand out. It's just kind of like there as one of the supporting members, which, I guess they need, but for me, again, in terms of just character likability, just kind of was there, had a cool thing, and went home. Oh man, I kind of want to save Kurapika for late. I mean, it doesn't matter, because you guys already know. First off, just my bias completely aside, but it's coming back, don't worry, this is my list. This is one of Kurapika's arcs. Like, this is the introduction to the Phantom Troupe, which is the penultimate desire, let's just say, for Kurapika to, for his character. How much he's on display, how much he goes through, how much he learns and grows and displays in this arc is, I mean, if you're not a Kurapika fan after this arc, I don't think you ever would be. That being said, I love this man so much. Let's reinsert my bias back into it. Straight S. Straight above Gon S, because I love everything that happens with him in this arc. I love what he goes through. I don't love it because of what it does to him, because it actually messes him up, but I like, from a character perspective, and I love his powers and all the different abilities that we learn, the things he can do, how it's tied into his heritage, the sort of the fights that he has with the Phantom Troupe, and like what it, how it really wrestles with his morality. And it's like, okay, does he care more about getting revenge against the Phantom Troupe, or like, would he be willing to toss his friendship aside, to that extent? And then if he does get it, like, does it matter as much? Does it, there's so much. I could literally do a whole video just on Kurapika. So much that I love about this guy. Straight S, straight number 1 F. All right, so next we have, I'm actually gonna grab the other, I believe it's 4 in total, all these 4 characters here. This guy, and this guy, who are characters that I like to refer to as plot ingredients. Now, what that basically means is these characters serve literally no other purpose than to progress or demonstrate something about another character's, presence in the story. So in this case, these 4 right here, I forget all their names are like literally their powers, right? So you have like Leech here, this guy's Owl, I believe, this guy is Porcupine, and then this guy's Rabid Dog. those names are literally their powers. It's what their special abilities are. It's what they can do. But they all literally only exist to display how strong Uvo is. Uvo. So that being said, like I literally, they're getting chucked in D, and even lower than this dude, if I'm being 100% honest, because I'm sure he might at least become relevant later. But like all of these guys are dead. So not only are they dead, but they just serve they're just doing nothing. Nothing whatsoever. So just D all the way. Got, whatever. Next. All right, next is the boy, completes the 4-man team here, Leorio. I'm going to put him in A, and I'm going to put him behind Crollo because he doesn't get a whole lot of presence in this arc, but the highs of Leorio in the Yorknew City arc, you guys can even go back and watch on the AoA Reacts channel, me and Gavin, our reactions to the episode, and y'all who have, I'm assuming most of you who have watched this, or watching this video have already watched the show. The scene where Kurapika ends up kidnapping Crollo at the hotel, that play, bro, the way Leorio gets involved, that alone for me, and he has like a really nice conversation with Melody at the end of the arc, but that scene alone is putting him in A. No ifs, ands, or buts for me. I was almost on instinct going to put him above Crollo, but again, I think just in terms of like what his character gets to do this arc, it's obviously not nearly, between him and Crollo, there's no comparison. Some people don't even know Leorio exists in terms of the Phantom Troupe and stuff. So, but like it's oh, dude, it was that was genuinely one of the most like nail-biting tension, heavy moments I've had watching a shonen anime in a long time. So just mad major prop. Okay, next up is Machi. I love Machi. I don't really know why. I mean, she's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman, but that's not really like so earlier when I was talking about Franklin, right? This guy right here. My whole thing was that like there's some members of the Phantom Troupe who are clearly like their role, if we'll call it that, is to be the negotiators, right? The communicators, the people who like wrangle all these crazy kids, for lack of a better term, together, and they're like, all right guys, listen, I know you're feeling this way, I know you're feeling this way, but like let's all breathe, let's take a minute, let's get together. And like they're the real level-headed ones, right? The ones with like genuine sense that can kind of unbiasedly look at situations and sort of determine what's the best course of action based off where their group stands and what's going on. And for me, that feels like Franklin and Machi. Like those two are, I would say, other than probably Crollo, those two are like and one more that we'll get to. They're like, that's their job. They're like the ones who are always looking at what's going on, the big picture here, the end game, the long term, and like determining what's the best course of action and not trying to get caught up in all like, yeah, but I hate them because of this and I feel this way because of that. And even way back when we met her, dude, with Hisoka, when they're in that hotel room, I don't know, something about, she just strikes me as this like really cool girl, this really cool character who like, is kind of doing her own thing, and she's, a part of the Phantom Troupe, because she believes, I mean, to an extent they all are, right? They're all part of this group because they believe what the group is doing is just. But I don't know, yeah, she doesn't strike me as like, we'll get to him in a minute, but the samurai, the swordsman guy, who like very quickly can get like racked up in their own feelings, and she just seems very calm, cool, collected, and her power, to be honest, when I first saw it, I was like, oh really, it's like about sewing, but it's like really cool. It's like the way she implements it, absolutely dope. I'm gonna put her in B above Hisoka, which actually she might, I imagine she would like, but she's also in the same category as Hisoka, so maybe she wouldn't. Okay, next is Melody. Melody definitely was a slow burn for me, not gonna lie. When we met her, I kind of thought she was just going to get roped up with the other bodyguards as just like bodyguard fodder. She was going to be the one person that like talked to Kurapika the most, but like wasn't really going to be anything beyond that. I could not have been more wrong though. Melody really did put in some work. She, first off, her power, again, much like her character, I guess, for me, didn't hit off at first, right? So her whole ability is that she can listen to the heartbeats. The heartbeats of everybody sort of play this song in Melody's, into her ears, in her mind, and she can use that to determine a bunch of things based off of what the kind of information you could get from listening to somebody's heartbeat, right? So is this person lying? Are they, is this person dead or not? Are there people nearby? Like, it's very sensory based. And again, off the front, it doesn't really sound like anything super special or unique. You're like, okay, you can do that. You're like a sensory person, but like, what is that going to do for us really? But it ends up tying a lot more. It's funny, her ability is heart-based. It ties in a lot more emotionally than I thought. There's a lot of moments with her and Kurapika where Kurapika, because he gives off this very cool, calm, and collected nature. Just from talking, you might get the premise, the assumption that, oh, he's cool, he's got it figured out, he knows what's going on, like this guy, he knows what he's saying. But then they would undercut those scenes with moments where Melody is listening to his heartbeat and can tell that he's like fuming with rage, or he's barely holding it together. And it's just the way that power specifically is implemented into this arc with all these characters, because this arc is like heavy mind game. This arc, there's a lot of like, who said what? Did he say this? But what way did he say it? And where was he? What was he really looking at when he said this? Was he talking to me, or like, and a lot of that has to do with a character, the next character we'll get to, because she literally sort of implements this like, foresight type thing into the arc. But I really like Melody. I really like her a lot. I'm struggling. Okay, my natural inclination was to put her top of B. So we're just gonna do that. I don't know what else to say. Good looks, Melody. You're doing good. You did good work. All right, next is Neon. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This girl really didn't hit for me. Her power is like kind of, it's okay, I guess. I don't know. I'm always kind of wishy-washy with anybody who has like the power of foresight, because the way no show is just going to give somebody the power to absolutely 100% know what's going to happen. It's always like this weird interpretation type thing, and it's always like, oh, okay, well, I interpreted it this way, and it's like, but then if you take that information, like, and then utilize it, are you in turn changing it? And it's, I don't know, it can get kind of confusing. But her power is one thing. It's pretty, like I said, it's pretty cool. What I really just didn't like was her. I think, and of course, okay, I know, because we got it in the comments when we were doing these reaction episodes. She's a teenager, right? And she's a spoiled teenager at that. So she's supposed to be, she's like the daughter of, basically the head mafia guy, right? So she's supposed to be this, spoiled, disconnected from the real world and real people, and doesn't know how to like talk or what's going on. I get all of that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. And I didn't. I think I've just found her very annoying. She makes probably some of the stupidest decisions and in this entire arc, and that's saying something coming from one of my favorite characters, Kurapika, who in retrospect, you could be like, oh, okay, but like, whatever, you did what you did, but like at the moment, some of his decisions, you were like, really, you're gonna do that? But this chick takes the cake, in my opinion, bro. The whole thing with Crollo, it's like, the assumption is that, not even the assumption, it was what happened, is she was with her group of bodyguards and snuck away from them, and then Crollo, disguised himself a little bit, like messed with his hair or whatever, asked her to come with him in his car, and she just goes with him. It's like, I don't care if you're like spoiled or not, like, were you never taught to like not just interact with random strangers or get in their car and go with them, please? I don't know. I just couldn't help the whole time being like, because the whole thing, the way it plays out with Crollo, he ends up stealing her power because that's one of his abilities. I was like, you low-key deserve it. And like, maybe, who knows, maybe that will like make you sort of like have to live like a normal person and like reconnect with reality, because she was definitely, her circumstances, what they were, pretty far disconnected from like what everybody else around her was feeling or wanted to do. So that being said, though, the characters that I really don't like on this list, I still like, I didn't hate her as much as I hated them. I hated them more. So I'm gonna put her probably, I'm thinking C, like, yeah, like kind of middle of C, leaning towards the bottom half here, under or above the brothers. And that's mainly because I just don't know anything really about this dude. And I hate this one vehemently. Yeah, that feels right. Again, I'm gonna kind of go first instinct, and then I'll re-rack the list if necessary. All right, next we have Nobunga. Anyway, this guy, he's definitely one of the Phantom Troupe members that sticks out. He gets a lot of say, he gets a lot of presence, a lot of scenes, etc. in this arc, and you really get a feel for who he is, what kind of person he is, what he wants from the Phantom Troupe, etc. And I don't know, I'm kind of mid on him, to be honest. Like, he didn't really pop off. Like, I'm like, yo, this guy, like, favorite Phantom Troupe member for sure. But, you know, it's kind of, it's always easier, I guess, to forgive the characters that get more screen time because you get more of them. You get to hear more of, like, why they make the choices they make. Although, to be fair, most, like I was saying before, most of his choices boil down to, like, how he's feeling. And you can tell that he, despite disagreeing with Uvo a lot, he, like, had some genuine bond with him and really gets racked up in his emotions during this arc about it. So, I don't know. I don't really know where to put, I think. Alright, again, let's just take this off instinct here. Alright, instinct is leading me to, like, top of C, potentially bottom of B. See, but my feelings of Hisoka aside, like, he wasn't, I feel like even putting him in B is, like, giving him a little too much credit. But he does kind of, like, no, you know what? On the end, I gotta fall back on, like, my opinion of these characters, and I think my opinion is top of C. Which is a pretty respectable position to be in. Okay, not gonna lie, I'm gonna spoil this for everybody right now, although it's not really a spoiler, because I'm the one who's the least involved in, but, like, for this list here, this is my favorite Phantom Troupe character, Pakunoda, by far. And I didn't think she was going to be. Again, one of the things I loved about this arc was how much it took my expectations of, like, what I thought I was going to get into, and, like, completely turned it on its head. I love her, the way her story carries out, and this is the thing I will say I loved about the neon, like, the fortune telling thing, because basically, I don't know if she gets everybody's fortune told, or if I think it's just most of them, some of them. Anyway, most of the Phantom Troupe members get their fortune told, and in their fortunes, it you know, again, the fortunes are, like, kind of vague, and they're kind of, like, you know, wishy-washy and not super direct, you know, as most of fortunes are, about what's going to happen. But the way that you're able to interpret them later, in hindsight, once the arc is finished, you know, most of them spell out pretty much what's going to happen to all of these members, and Pakunoda specifically, because, you know, she's one of the ones who dies in this arc. But not only does she just die, she dies specifically giving up her life for the idea, like, for the Phantom Troupe, and not for the Phantom Troupe members as comrades, but as friends. And it's specifically the inspiration that she gets, right? Or let's just say the idea that she gets from Gon as to why, because the way that the fortune is, you know, at least supposed to be interpreted, at least I think so, is that she, you know, one of the last lines of it is that you are either going to give up your life for, you know, the pride, I'm, you know, not getting the exact wording right, but, like, for the pride, for your pride, or you're either going to stand by your pride, or you're going to, like, lie and give up your life for, you know, like, for somebody or something. But ultimately what it is basically she's put in between a rock and a hard place by Kurapika and his powers, and she has to make this decision of whether she will die for the Phantom Troupe, for these, you know, these people, for her fellow members, or not, right? Or she'll sort of spill the beans and sort of, like, throw Kurapika's whole plan, you know, into whack. And ultimately it's something that Gon says to her about who, when she looks at the Phantom Troupe, like, how does she really see these people? What would she be willing to do for them? And it sort of you really see her, like, get racked up with it later in the arc, and she ultimately decides to give up her life so that the Phantom Troupe, so that these people, so that her friends can stay active and can stay alive and have another shot at getting Crollo back. And it's that kind of, like, genuine bond and camaraderie that, plus, like, the final scene, her actual deaths, I loved it. I loved all of it. And plus her ability is kind of cool, and she's just, like, this badass, no-nonsense woman, which you can't really be mad at in my book. I love her. I absolutely loved her, 100%. Again, this is just me. This is just my feelings. I might get some hot, you know, get put in some hot water for this, but instincts, top of A. Easy top of A. easy, no questions asked. Next. All right, next we got Finks. This dude honestly was the most funny of the Phantom Troops, because this is the guy, and he even looks like it. This is the guy who you roll into, you know, the gym or some store or something, and he's the guy who always wants to make everybody think that he's got shit figured out, right? He knows what's up. He, you know, he's running the game here. He's, you know, this dude literally, he's running around snapping necks and stuff. Like that's his ability or his power. And the way that things the way he interacts with, you know, Gon and his group and stuff when they when they kidnap Kroll, it's peak comedy. It really is. He's basically, he's the guy who always thinks he's the smartest in the room, but he's not. That being said, he kind of gets into it a lot with Nobanga, the samurai guy, and you know, the interactions are pretty funny. But again, aside from that, there's not really a whole lot to say about him. And in terms of likability, I can't really say that I loved him. I loved like his moments. I loved a lot of the jokes that the show made about him, but that's not really the same thing as liking the character, if that makes sense. So with that being said, I'm feeling definitely C, but I don't know if it's going to be between Franklin and this other dude, or in between Franklin and the samurai. I guess that depends if I liked Franklin more than this guy, which I did. So there's your answer. All right, next is Shalnark, who again is a pretty cool dude. He's actually also one of the more level-headed Phantom Troop members. His power is really cool. It's interesting. Again, we see like enough of it to like sort of talk about how it works, but I kind of feel like there's more buried under it, or maybe he'll learn more like how to use it. I did really like him. He kind of also like weird, like just this has nothing to do with the like, but he looks like he could be like Kurapika's older brother in a weird way. But I do, again, it's always, especially with these kind of groups, right? Like, or this archetype, let's call it, because the Phantom Troop, I even said this in my reactions, obvious parallels to the Akatsuki, right? They're this band, this group of rogue, people, hunters in this case, and Shinobi and Naruto, who kind of have been cast out by society. But in my opinion, I actually think the Phantom Troop does a lot more than the Akatsuki to establish this idea that this group, that there's legitimacy as to why this group exists. Right now, you could say that the Akatsuki's whole shtick is that like they're a band of rogue ninja and they're forming together to sort of burn the world the way they were cast aside by their respective villages. But most of the people that got tossed aside, by their villages in the Akatsuki, it's usually because they committed a crime. Like the village didn't just wake up one day and they were like, Kizame, we hate. It's like usually because like they killed somebody, or stole something and fled. So it's like it's their own, It's kind of like a criminal like committing a genuine crime and then being like, well, I can't believe they would do that. And it's like, well, no, they kind of like, it makes sense. Whereas the Phantom Troop, again, we don't get the whole shtick, but there's this implication that the Phantom Troop, at least most of the members, definitely specifically Krollo, are from this city that's basically like this garbage dump city, right? It's this like forgotten wasteland, this area that like, the society kind of like sends all the rejects to, and like anything they don't want, like it just gets put there. And so the implication, again, at least from my perspective, I might be, people can correct me in the comments, is that like they are, unless I'm not supposed to know, then don't say anything, is that they are, they're this Robin Hood type group that is like here to, in this case, lie, cheat and willing to kill, but ultimately steal, take things that don't belong to the higher ups and the more, higher rung people in society, and take that stuff back for them, either for them personally or for their original home, their original land. Which is, again, sort of what I picked up from it. They go into it briefly in this arc, but I kind of have a feeling we're going to get more of it later in the show. So, but with that, you get people in this arc who genuinely seem like, they have a good head on their shoulders, and they're like, yeah, I do all this stuff. I'm willing to go to these extremes, but it's because I care. It's because I give a damn about making sure that like people who have been wronged, the people that society doesn't care about or like anymore, or doesn't fit in their mold, get a say or get a chance to live. which, like, you know, you really can't be mad at unless you're just a bad person. Again, even people like Gon, like, I don't think the problem necessarily is like who these guys are at their core. It's like what they're doing, right? It's the methodology. So that all being said, that whole rant aside, I did not expect to go on a rant about this guy of all people, but I'm gonna put him at the bottom of B, because again, he's not a character that gets like a super heavy presence, but he stood out to me, and I do like him, like, just as a person and a character. All right, and now we have Shizuku, who, again, she's pretty cool. I would probably ultimately, again, just going off of instinct here, I would chuck her in the bottom of B, just because her ability with the whole vacuuming thing seems lame at first, and like, okay, in a fight, I guess you could say it's like not as useful as some of these others, but like, everybody needs a cleanup crew, right? The one of the coolest things about the Phantom Troupe is they can literally do a thing like they do in this literal arc and just commit mass murder in an entire building, because they have a member who can literally clean up the crime scene, bro. Like, it never happened. That the way that they wipe out that entire room of people at the auction, and then just they're like, hey, Shizuku, like, go ahead and start vacuuming all this stuff up, and the her weird, like, monster eating vacuum just eats everything. It literally wipes out the room. It's such a seemingly lame ability, but like, it's one of those ones that's incredibly practically useful, and like, is probably, I would argue, almost definitely one of the reasons that the Phantom Troupe is as elusive of a group as they are when you meet them, and are like people who haven't really been caught or identified much. Is because, like, they barely leave fingerprints. Your girl's just eating this stuff up. All right, so the next one, I'm actually gonna do the two Zoldoks like together again, because they, similar to most of the Zoldoks here except for Killua, they kind of all are doing the same thing. I'm gonna chuck them both also at the bottom of B, because I do, they don't really do a lot or say a lot, but the stuff they do say and do is pretty dope. The fight that these two both have with Crollo, where they literally just go balls to the wall and like just start gunning for this man's throat, is definitely like one of the best fights in this entire arc. That, and then there's the whole shtick of like they're getting ready to kill Crollo, and it's like, oh, our boss is dead, the person who hired us. All right, cool, see you, Kurapika. Like, no, we don't really care to kill you. Like, we just got hired. They live like a very standard like bounty hunter lifestyle, where it's, I mean, they're assassins for hire, so it makes sense. But they're very just much like, we don't like feelings, emotions, reasons to do, like, it's just, you have money, cool. Then who do you want me to kill? And that's really it. So with that being said, I feel like there's not much more to say about them. Again, I'm sure we'll get more of them later, but right now they kind of just stand at the bottom of B for me, where it's like noticeable. I picked them out, but like I'm not really honed in on them yet. And then the last one is Uvo, who, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like per se, as much as I like what he represented. So when you meet him, he's the obvious like big jock, muscle, my superpower is super strength type character, and that's pretty much it. The way he dismantles all these guys though is some of the most savage shit I've ever seen in anime, period. Like, literally. I literally still think about those scenes to this day. But the fight he has with Kurapika, and specifically like what it represents, is when Kurapika's fighting him. So the whole deal is that Kurapika basically set it up specifically so that Uvo was going to be one of the first people that he fought, because he sort of gets the rundown on him, and you sort of end up learning that Uvo is basically the perfect pairing of somebody to go up against Kurapika, at least for a first matchup, because he's, I won't say necessarily the weakest Phantom Troupe member, but he's the easiest person for Kurapika to counter directly. And the fact that he fought him alone. So what you learn through this fight though is that Uvo, despite what he says and despite some of the ways he feels about like either Kurapika or the Phantom Troupe in general, when this fight ends, Kurapika ends up having to take this man's life because he commits so hard to the Phantom Troupe, again, to these comrades, to his friends. I would even argue with some of them. He was not willing to spill any information, and when Kurapika literally has this chain wrapped around his heart, Kurapika's like, dude, I'm gonna spare your life. I'm not here to kill you. Give me the info. Like, you're not, I'm not trying to die, or I'm not trying to kill you, at this, on this stake here. Uvo literally looks at him and is like, kill me. Like, do it right now, because I've got nothing more to say to you. Like, I'm not ratting out on this troop. And then Kurapika kills him for it. And it's like, it sets the precedent again for what I ultimately learned through this whole arc, which is that, the Phantom Troupe are a serious group, and they're a serious group and force to be reckoned with, not because they're super strong or they have these crazy powers, but because they care about the Phantom Troupe. So with that being said, I'm again, base instinct, not trying to go too ham, because I'm going to do a quick rearrange after this. I really do feel Uvo bottom of B. Okay, so this is it. This is the initial list. I'm going to go through each of these tiers here real quick and do any sort of last minute rearranges or changes I want to make. I guess we'll just start. We'll start here. We'll start at the bottom. So D, pretty happy with that. Was really just the column that I feel nothing of characters for. So yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to change that. C, let's see here. We got I'm feeling pretty good about this one too. I don't know. I kind of have this weird inkling to put Franklin above Swordsman here, but most of that's really just because I like Franklin more. But I do kind of feel like the Swordsman wins out just because of his like the stance he makes in this arc. Yeah, that's good. So C's good too. All right, B. I am going to. All right, this is dangerous. this isn't good. This is very not good, because Ahsoka's doing something. He's doing something where like he slowly like just weasels his. I'm telling you, I feel it, bro. By the end of Hunter x Hunter, I feel like he's going to end up in A, and like it might even be high A. I'm not saying that like I want that right now. I don't know, but I'm just saying that like this is a feeling I'm getting that I'm gonna have to contend with, because it's just something's happening and I don't really know what it is or how to explain it. I don't know. Anyway, the only one that I really want to switch as of right now, again, a gut feeling, is Melody and Machi. But again, I think that's just because like I really liked Machi. But at least for this list, I kind of want to keep it a little more weighing in the favor of like the character's importance to the story. Obviously, there's some of my biased in there for sure. You know, like kind of like C for, yeah, like kind of like the C tier where it's like the Swordsman. I kind of like Franklin more, but you know, I think Nobanga, these names are gonna kill me. Nobanga, however you say his name, like had more say in the arc and like had more of a presence. I kind of feel like that's the same thing with Melody. Like Melody definitely gets more screen time than Machi, and definitely like, again, her powers and just her sort of character is sort of integrally tied to this arc, because a lot of it deals with Kurapika and his anger, his frustration, his path of vengeance, and the Phantom Troupe. So Melody is kind of like, in a weird way, this this good person to play off with him. So I like that. I think I'm gonna keep that one the same. A is the only contender here. And I gotta be honest, it's mainly because I imagine most people. So, all right, here's the thing. I was gonna say I imagine most people really like Frollo and couldn't fathom Pakunoda being above him, but I'm gonna be real. Again, this list is for this arc specifically. If Frollo does do anything past this arc, then he would get moved up or whatever down accordingly. But as of right now, my knowledge of Yorknew City, this feels fair. Plus, I feel like Pakunoda, not only being my favorite Phantom Troupe member, but she's also like, this is her only arc. She dies in this arc, right? So I kind of feel like I gotta get like, she gets top A, easy top A for sure. No ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah, and then S, I'm perfectly happy with. Do I wish I could give Kurapika his own tier? Okay, so that's the list here. Thank you all for watching this video. Again, if you really enjoyed this content here, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we're definitely going to be trying to put out tons more content in terms of, tier lists, stuff like this, analysis, discussion videos about a lot of these shows that we are covering, and maybe ones that we aren't directly like episode to episode covering over on the Reacts channel. So it's definitely better if you are subscribe to both channels, because that way you're kind of getting like the full, the full integrated picture here, which is kind of what we're trying to do. And with that being said, I'm gonna go watch some more Hunter x Hunter. Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly. They like what you saying, Goma got more through the storylines. I tested your neck from the start. My hunters gon' come for your heart. I promise you'll land in my boulevard. Left them in one piece, no.